Hey traders, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, also known as Trader Nick. If you don't know me already, I make all sorts of Forex content here. And today we're going to be reviewing a little bit of my own performance on one of my strategies on one of my public accounts here that I've got tracked on myfxbook.com. This is a cool site. If you don't know what it is, basically it's a third-party verified tracking site where you can track your trading performance. And you can take a look at some of the really cool analytics that they give you, which we're going to dive in today. I'm going to just kind of cover what I see here. I just figured I'd want to do my own performance report, I guess, just checking in on my own trades to see how I'm doing. And I figured I would just record it so I could share it with you guys. Before I go into it too much, I do want to say that if you have a track record, if you have a performance and you share it with people, then you know that inevitably what happens is you have a lot of different controversy about people who are saying your returns are not good enough, you're doing things wrong. Some people will say that's great. You know, you have all these different opinions. And let me say before we go any further that these are results that for me are comfortable, they are consistent, and they're something that fits my style. Now, people who come along on YouTube, they'll comment in the sections and say, you know, you should be able to make 20% a month or 20% a week, right? And just have these kind of, in my opinion, kind of these more false looks at the market that ignore the fact that if you're going for really high returns, you have to remember that you're going to be taking a high level of risk and can even blow accounts trying to go too quick. So for me, this is all comfortable, and I like to talk about my performance. I don't really have anything to hide here. I don't go for massive returns in short times. I go for slow and steady, consistent growth over time. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon for me, and I plan on doing it for a long time. So let's jump into this concept here of talking about this performance of this strategy that I've been running. This is primarily a short-term swing trading strategy. And what that means is that my trades usually last anywhere from, actually, I guess we could take a look at what the average trade length is. I don't know where I can find that. Average trade length, 2 days. Yeah, so you can see that my average trade is actually relatively short, only 2 days of holding time. So usually I describe this strategy as something where I'm looking to get in and out of the market on a short-term swing, anywhere from 1 day to 7 days, and sometimes we have the occasional longer trade. But let's dive into this strategy. Let's do a little bit of the performance report on this particular account. Now I want to say, before people say, hey, you couldn't live off this number, this is not my only trading account, and I kind of try to keep my finances a little bit private from the world. This is the internet after all. And so this one account is one that I show the full numbers so that we can just kind of get an idea of how a real performing strategy to me looks like. And this is kind of just my overall track record. So what you can see here is you have a gain so far. We started this right around the end of September 25th. It is currently the end of November. So I wanted to do kind of a monthly update here on this. And you can see that overall the account is up 4.52%, which to me is not bad at all, especially since we're coming into the holiday season. We just had Thanksgiving here in the US. So the markets have been very, very slow, and we're still making money here. And so let's talk a little bit about some of these metrics here. You can see that the average monthly gain was about 2%, which to me, that's great, because 2% a month means about 24% a year if you can keep that up. And if you compound that, it's not necessarily just 24%, because you can reinvest your gains and you can exponentially grow what you're doing. Let me pull up my pen. Maybe we can illustrate that. So what you can see here is that the monthly is just around 2%. You can also see that the drawdown here is just about 1.24%. So we have not had a big drawdown, which to me is absolutely crucial. My number one thing when I'm looking at a performance track record or someone who's sharing their trades is to take a look at their drawdown. How much risk are you taking per unit of reward, right? So for every one, I guess, unit, just bear with me, it's just hypothetical. For 1 unit of risk, how much reward are you getting on average? Are you getting 2? Are you getting 3, right? That's something that's important. And down here, we can actually jump ahead a little bit and just talk about the profit factor. Profit factor is pretty cool too, because that's a pretty good way to measure. You can see right here, the profit factor shows how many times the gross profit exceeds the gross loss, which is good. So the higher this number, the better. So that's kind of one way to look at that. But back to just taking a look at the equity chart here, you can see overall things have been very, very good on this account. And most importantly to me, we've seen this nice climb in the account on low drawdown. That is, to me, the number one thing. That is what I'm looking for in a track record. I'm not looking for, did you make 100% in 2 weeks? That's not exciting to me. And let me tell you why. It's not about how well you did last week. It's about how well can you do in the future. And the more stable a track record looks to me, the more appetizing it would be in order to place money on a strategy that I see, right? So when I go through the process of building a strategy or coming up through a concept, I'll do a lot of back testing to see how this strategy performed in the past years, right? So I'll dig through the charts and take a look at what the market's doing and see, through tracked trades or back tested trades, what these kind of metrics come out to. How much drawdown did we have? How much percentage gains do we see in that period? That's important to me when evaluating a strategy. You can see the balance is nearing $10,000, which is awesome because the initial balance was right around $94.68, which to me is, I know it's not a crazy amount of gains, but it's nice because we're up $427 on a relatively not huge account, but a good sized account, right? And so to me, that's pretty nice. So we're up 4.5%. In just about 2 months or so of trading performance here. And so again, that low drawdown is important to me. You can see here, now we can get down into some of these metrics here. And what you see in this area here is you can see stuff like how many trades have we taken here? We've taken 30 swing trades. Overall, the profitability, let's hover over this, is about 77% accurate, which to me is actually very high. Usually in my back tests on this particular strategy, I was seeing things like 70%. So to see 77 is actually a really positive thing. So that's kind of cool to see. You can see that the average win, this is kind of a cool thing to look at, is about 46 pips, about $23 of profit there. And the average loss is actually slightly bigger, and that's partially due to spread. That's partially due to just the nature of what the losses look like in this strategy. And you can see that the average loss is slightly smaller than our win, which is great. Now let's also get into these metrics here. You can see how much our win percentage is based on longs or shorts, and that's kind of cool. So you have an 80% win rate there on the longs, and you actually have a 75% on the shorts. But we've taken quite a few more shorts, which I find interesting. So actually 20 shorts and 10 longs there. The best trade was 122, I believe that's pips, 122.56. No, that's dollars. Yeah. So that $122 on a trade was the best trade, and the worst loss has been a $39 loss. The best trade in terms of pips has been 153. That's kind of cool. Worst trade is 123. And then again, we get back to this profit factor, which is a big indicator of how good a strategy is, in my opinion. And then we have stuff like the Sharpe ratio of 0.43. The Sharpe ratio, we can read what that means. The Sharpe ratio is used to characterize how well the return of an asset compensates the investor for the risk taken. The higher the value, the better. And the Z-score here, you can see that's another thing. The Z-score is used for calculating the ability of a trading system to generate wins and loses in a streak, or losses in a streak. It enables us to see if the streaks generated are of a random pattern or not. So in this system, there is a 31% chance that a loss will be followed by a profit and a profit by a loss. Interesting. So, yeah, that's kind of just the general stats there. Those are the major things that I like to look at. We can take a look down here at some of these monthly gains, which you can see that in October, we had a really good month. We had the bulk of our gains there in October, made 3.32%. I want to just talk briefly about why I think that is. October has notoriously been in the past a volatile month, right? A lot of times the markets move quite a bit during October. We had a lot of financial crises in the past during the month of October. And so if there's any sort of seasonality there, what we've seen is that October can be a volatile month. And we did, in fact, have that volatility. And in our case, it actually played out to our advantage. That was a good thing to see that sort of volatility. Now, in November, you might say, well, Nick, are you a terrible trader now? You only made 0.5%. Well, this is where I want to go with this, guys, is November, a good second half of it has been mostly lower volatility. And the reason for that is that the months are coming towards the end of the year. And when you have that end of the year months, what you see is you see volatility tend to drop. And so with less volatility, the markets are moving less. There's less opportunities, in my opinion. Spreads are loose, right? Things are just not as active. And so this month we made 0.5%, which I'm actually still happy with, right? Because because we had a great month last month, and being positive this month is still a good thing. I know it's not 50% in a month like a lot of the social media traders will shout at you, but we're here doing consistent growth on the account, and to me, that's all I could ask for. Compared to back when I was a newer trader trying to make 50% a month, I actually ended up losing 50% every month. So it was like almost like when I understood the concept of drop the expectation of making a ton of percentage returns really quickly and just doing this slow and steady long term, that's where things really changed my trading. So so far, again, that's about 3 months of or 2 months, because we started very late in September, but that's about 2 months of trading performance here on this account. You can see the equity chart overall chugging to the upside. Pretty happy with how we're doing here, and overall planning on just trying to keep this growth going. You can see we did have a little bit of drawdown there. That was probably the 1.24%, but overall the account is chugging to the upside, and pretty happy with how this account has grown. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you got something out of just reviewing this performance, and we'll see you next time.